Okay, talk for test.
يعطي شيء كرسي شيء يدنا تخشين إسنا باش بجاب أشين.
That's good. First of all, just for the cameras, what's your name?
I am Kris Pfeiffer of the Navajo Nation, born in Monument Valley. I am born for the Giant People Red Runs Into the Water clan and born under the Metal Hats clan, that is German, but in Navajo it's Yat Krisayin Shia Yadinet Hachinishle, Besh Bashichin, Ashchi Dashiche, Islan Adobe Kanadashanal. That's just how we'd introduce ourselves. Mainly to know if you're going to date your cousin or not, because we're a small, tight-knit community, but that's kind of me. And I teach and study here at Utah State University in Logan campus.
Mm. And you're originally from?
Monument Valley, Arizona. The town is called Oljetro, or Oljeto, which it means moon water. And that's kind of how we survived the long walk in not being captured, is because you have those compression water pool, or the sandstone pools that get filled with water, and you'd see the moons. And because we believe in like Johana'e, Nahassan, and Nats Elid, and Asan Nadlehe, that's like changing woman, the father sky, Mother Earth, the rainbow. That's kind of how they just thought, oh, we see the moon in this water, we're going to stay here. And that's kind of how El Jeto got founded. And that's where I grew up, which is outside of where Forrest Gump gave up running.
Wow. And what brought you to Logan, Utah?
So we have they call it a satellite campus, but it's basically just a shack. Probably about as big as this room. It's like, what, 20 by 20 feet? And it's got Zoom, and there's a TV. And so it could zoom out potentially, and so students could go there. And I had cousins who went to Monument Valley. Also, Blanding's like an hour-ish away, and I wanted to go to school. So, yeah, I went. I was 17, came up here to Logan. I did 2 semesters, 2020, 2011. Sorry, I'm like, what year is this? 2011, 2012, that was fall, spring, and then I went back home and helped my family and kind of started working. And then I came back in my 30s, and I really took the motto, education is the way to success. And so I'm getting here, getting that Juris Doctorate so I can defend myself from all aggressors and trespassers or people who may, I always say I'm a voice for the voiceless, and that's a lot of voiceless students here at Utah State. And I had the option of going home to another campus closer, and I'm like, nope, there's people that need me here, need my help, and especially our Native students here, they just kind of roll over and play dead. Like, I'll speak to them in Navajo, and they have no idea what I'm saying.
Yeah. And you said that you're a teacher or a professor?
Yes.
Okay. And one of the first questions I wanted to ask, obviously, is, what role does your Native American heritage or Navajo heritage play in your worldview?
It is my everything view, because until I was 5, I never spoke English, not until I was enrolled in school. And then my mom was a victim of the boarding school era. She got sent to the Intermountain boarding school, and then she was hit for speaking her language. They tried to erase us, eradicate. The motto back in the day was kill the Indian, save the child. But she was grateful because her mother, my grandmother, always wanted to get an education, but she wasn't able to. And my mom said, I'm not happy about the way I went about it, but had I not gone about it that way, I would have never got the opportunity. So I actually was sent to boarding school in New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
And so I am very worldly. I know a lot more than the American K through 12, and they said K through 12 here is a joke. Go and climb the ladder, get your feather, and basically I came back speaking 7 languages. I came back 3 grades above where I'm supposed to be. All that from, they're just an engine. They're just drunks. They don't do anything. They won't amount to anything. They just weave and stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I'm a very much Aries, hard-headed, through and through, ready, fire, aim. And I thought, I'm just going to speak, and whatever the consequences are going to be the consequences. But then my mother told me, no, you need to do things in what is called Hajan, and that's our Navajo worldview, where everything is beautiful, everything's in balance, everything's in harmony. And so now I take things with tact as a professor in my statistics courses, that I can't just be like, why the fuck are you understanding this shit? Like what I'd normally have the intent to do. Instead, it's what is going to make this student thrive or go far in life. And help them as best they can. Because I took statistics as a trio student, which is for neurodiverse, failed it the first time, got enrolled in that. I'm like, oh, this helps. So why don't we do that for other people? So I have a lot of recitation courses that my students are second or first generation, English second language, and I just look at it that way where I'm like, we're a minority, let's help them even though we were the majority before white people came.
Right.
And so I always keep things in balance, but then sometimes I forget it because I am also half German. And so that very much, kind of, I just got some Platz comes out, and I'm just like, yeah. So, but yeah, it has shaped much of my view.
Wow. So it seems like education, for you, education is like almost like a tool of...
Yes,
yeah.
It is a weapon. And if the reason why you need a public defender, somebody to defend you in court, is because you don't know the legal system. And if you're educated, even if you don't have a degree, if you read the law books or you read codes and statutes, you can defend yourself legally without any rights or without any issues. Same with like planting, like gardening. I used to be over the Utah Conservation Corps and the Peace Corps here at USU. And our placement was at the mouth of Logan Canyon, which is very, very windy. In the mornings, the wind comes through, and all the trees are like, they grow like this. And my corn stalks were upright like this because I told them, oh, we're going to grow corn. No one's ever been able to grow like anything good in this plot of land. Well, I was able to grow corn, bean, squash, winter squash, everything because it's the Three Sisters method. And the corn is the oldest sister, she's planted first. The beans are the next one. They actually affix her and keep her tethered down, but also attract rhizobacteria that convert ammonia into available nitrogen. And then the squash is the third sister, and it covers the ground so the moisture stays. And all three as one, we had corn that was only 4 feet high, but we got 3 big-sized ears per stalk. And then, yeah, it's just some indigenous knowledge that we've always known. But it's never made sense to people because it hasn't been FDA approved. And so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go prove it. Here, let's go and show someone.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I've always been proud of and hold on to, is my culture, my heritage, because it really does shape my world and the way I view things.
Yeah, yeah. And this is a question that I ask everybody, but especially being in Utah and in this time and age, I mean, it's September 25th. What do you think the biggest threat currently to the United States is?
Capitalism. Because back in the day to when we were bartering salt, and I started building like Salzburg Palace in Austria, or you had the salt mine people, that was a commodity and it was capitalized on and it made someone wealthy. And then you had the lessers and the castes, and same with land in the UK. But the capitalizing on it, it's in the word capitalism, and that I see is, I'm not a communist. I grew up in a socialist country, but helping each other, that's the best way. Like, we grew up as a farming community, sheep herders, and if you didn't have enough, you could ask someone, or if you had too much, you could give it to someone else, and that sustained us for 5,000 years. And then you have people who come in here, they use us to mine uranium without personal protective equipment. We die of bowel cancer. They're like, we're just following through to, and we have the last untapped helium mine on Earth, because all the helium that is there is all the helium that there's going to be, and people don't know that. It's like, what's keeping them from tapping that? And it's just, we got put on what they thought was the shittiest, worst plot of land, and yet it was the most rich in coal, uranium, helium, carbon, all these things. And we said, well, we've always been here. We knew the land was rich, even though you see it as nothing. And now people are coming in and they're leasing out the plots for oil. And I'm like, you're going to destroy it. We were poisoned once. We finally got over that generation of the uranium. And now here comes the oil and the coal. And they're going to truck uranium again. And it's just because people see dollar signs. And it's the rich keep getting richer because they're making the poor do the work and you're making them poor. And it's like that. Capitalism only exists when you conform. But if you don't do the work that they want you to do, then they have to do the work, and they don't want to do the work. So that's really my biggest takeaway with capitalism is don't fuel it. A lot of people just say, oh, boycott this, or boycotting isn't going to do anything, because the next person's going to come along not knowing anything about it, and they're going to keep wanting to do it. But if you can get a rally or a ruckus going, much like what you're doing, it's easier to change the mind of one person But then after you've changed the minds of so many people, you can change the hearts of like a nation, and it's a lot easier to do that once you have dialogue, and it's by listening that, you know, you can really change that. I'm totally like, blah. But yeah, capitalism, I think, is the biggest, that, and just because the political climate, you know, trying to silence us and changing all these laws, they're trying to say, oh, I'm running for president for my third term. Like, that's illegal. You're trying to capitalize on your wealth. How is it that we have a however many times convicted rapist, fascist, felon as our president? Again. Yeah. Again, God. And so, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
No, well, I'm glad that you answered it that way, because usually when I ask what the biggest threat is, I have to follow up with, what do you think the best way to deal with that threat is? But you already answered it, right? I mean, yeah. The best way to deal with it, would you say, is community, education? Or?
Yeah, yep. Don't conform, don't be a sheep. Stand up, use your voice, because a lot of people don't realize you have a voice. And maybe your voice is that one voice that made the other person who was a little afraid or wasn't going to use it change their mind, and they flipped the other way. And it's like my favorite quote, well, one of my favorite quotes is from Mulan. It's the emperor's like, a single grain of rice can tip the scale. One man can be the difference between victory and defeat. Well, I was that one man at this university 4 times in a row for multiple different things. I brought Power back, I brought back Miss USU, I brought back our SACNAS chapter, I brought diversity education and LGBT scholars. I'm the only United States Leaders of Color Fellow for the Northwestern regions of the arts in Utah ever. Wow. And so they're like, how did you do that, Mike? Because I used my voice. Yeah. And so just, be passionate about what you believe in and don't falter, because if you bend too much for something, you'll fall for anything. Wow. Letterkenny.
Another one of my questions that I ask, and I think that from your perspective, it would be a very interesting answer, is it's kind of a generic question, but what does the American dream mean to you, or do you even think that it's real?
God, that I hear the American dream, it's cringy, nails on chalkboard, or like someone, like the violin goes eek and the strings break, because I'm just like, the American dream is my death march, the manifest destiny, and go west and colonize. And then, for the sake of expanding the white, or Lady Liberty, whenever we have Pioneer Day, which is July 24th here in Utah, they always say, "Oh, celebrate Lady Liberty, Manifest Destiny." And it's like the picture of the Lady Liberty, and she's floating through, and the pioneers and the pilgrims are all in their handcarts and shit. We changed it with the Dementor, and that's like our thing. We're like, "Happy Death Day," because they call it Trail of Tears or a Long Walk. We call it the Death Marches. And they go, oh, it wasn't that bad. Like, no, literally more Native Americans have died than Jews in the Holocaust. All over the world combined, like some 600 million. And it was all from the American dream, where it's, come here, make your difference. We were already here making things work just fine. We were happy, subsistence living, being one with the land, because we don't see ourselves as owning the land. We are caretakers, and it's literally Mother Earth, Father Sky. You take care of your parents once you're able to. Your parents take care of you, and it's just went back to Honjon, the circle. And yeah, whenever I hear that American dream, I'm like, break your camera in half.
Right, because it means something very different to Native Americans. Mm-hmm.
And much like the university, I always tell people, there was a speech there's a speech I did on the quad when they were doing one of their protests, and it was that this is the Moral Land Grant Act University, which means they were granted the land for educational purposes, and they can have as much land as they want because it's a nonprofit and X, Y, and Z. But this land grant university has the most, because we have an ROTC here, the most enlisted militarized students out of West Point. We are the highest students that go into the military, apart from West Point, which is a dedicated military school.
Percentage-wise, you're the highest?
Yes, we have the most, yep.
Wow.
And so I'm like, that tells you something about what they're using this land for. And I just go back to, being Native American. This is the Shoshone Nation, and then Brigham Young, the president of the prophet or whatever of the church of LDS, came up here and goes, I want this. This is the place. And then massacred everyone, and they never bring that up, and they just took it away out of our land grant acknowledgement. They said, the only land grant we know is the Moral Land Grant Act of 19 or 18, whatever it is, and that's all you can find on our websites. And that's why I'm still here, because I know some people, they say, if you want to see change, be the change you want to see. there's a lot of people that are graduating and leaving, or when we had our House bills 261 and 257 come through, they were ousted, like forced into retirement. And so I'm one of the few left that still care, and I'm trying to ignite that passion so that, you know, we can destroy the machine from the inside out. It's the easiest way to bring this whole place crashing to the ground, because our little shack in Monument Valley back in the day, the stupid Navajo Nation gave them some land, and now we have a state-of-the-art building being built. And I thought, you already gave them land when you like subsided certain things for like gold or this or that, but now we're actively giving them land after we hundreds of years fought to have our own land to this university, because we don't own that land that the school's on, but it's on Navajo Nation territory. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just like, what a bunch of fucking dumbassery is going on. But also our President Boo Nygren sucks Donald Trump's dick as well. Mm.
Yeah. Wow. So do you think that this is a primarily like right-leaning school?
I forget my directions because I'm dyslexic, diagnosed. Yeah. Which one's which again?
Like right-leaning as in like a Republican.
Oh, yes, very much so. We housed the Republican National Convention in February of 2024. Wow. It was a huge thing.
At this campus?
At this campus. We're also going to have Charlie Kirk come the day after he went to UVU, and everyone up here was like, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? Because they're like, oh, what a martyr. And I'm thinking, I'm feeling, how are you feeling? Because that shooter could have been up here, because I know there's a good chunk of people who are left smart in our administration that will not stand for any kind of bigotry, zealotry, fascism on this campus, me being one of them, but me being one of them who will show my face and actively say it, because some of them are on the tenure track. I don't give two shits. Yeah. And so if I'm gone, I'm gone, but they can't get rid of me as a student. So that's kind of my saving grace.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it's funny that you bring that up, because I mean, obviously that's so recent. What do you think about the whole Charlie Kirk thing?
Someone, I believe in karma, and someone who spreads hate and says, you know, like didn't talk about, the media didn't cover the children shootings that happened that day, multiple children shootings in multiple states that day. And then also he was anti-LGBT, he was anti-Palestine, he was all these things, he was a misogynistic, just all around not good person. However, I did bring this up in a speech that I had to get. I keep saying have to give, but it's because of my moral obligation that makes me say have to. A speech that I gave, I said, death of anyone is not right. Death is not right whatsoever. However, it was on 9/11. I said, however, the days you choose to remember, as in hashtag never forget, why are some days more important than others? I walked around campus blasting powwow music, full regalia, turquoise, moccasins, silver, velveteen. No one stopped to look at me or look, and I thought, we've been forgotten this long, and we're still being forgotten in this present day. Yet you're like, 9/11, now commemoratively Charlie Kirk Day, because people completely were blindsided that it's actually called Patriots Day. And back to like 9/11, yes, no one should have died in the Twin Towers. However, why do we remember that day instead of the day that, you know, General Custer massacred people, or the day that the Apaches and Navajos were forced on the Long Walk, or the day that the Osage murders, and you know, why is that day more important? But no life is more important than the other. However, personally, he got what he deserved, because karma is swift, and she is righteous, and she is fair.
Wow. Well, this also ties into one of the more poignant questions that I ask is, you know, obviously there's a very prominent amount of political division in the United States, and now after that assassination, it's even bigger. Do you think that there's any possibility of finding common ground between opposing political sides?
Always. You always can. Like, back in the 80s here, you're good.
You can keep going.
Oh, yeah. You're good. But yeah, back in the 80s, here, as you know, this is the Mormon state. It used to be, you know, the LDS people in the Mexican hills before it became Utah. And the Prophet, we were one of the earlier states to have gay marriage legal. And it's because, I forget his name, he's the head of Equality Utah, but they used to call him the gay mayor, unofficial gay mayor of Utah. And he thought, we're never going to find common ground or get gay marriage legal in the state until we listen, and at that time, and still today, majority of the political leaders are LDS, but he thought, Troy Williams, that's his name, Troy Williams, he thought, let's listen, let's have a conversation, let's have a dialogue, let's not have an attack. And he sat down, and whatever prophet at that time he started talking to and having a dialogue and creating an open thing, he says, what is it that you want? Oh, this is what we want. We have feelings too. I hear what you're saying. Oh, you want to do this. Well, we would like this, blah, blah, blah. And then with that dialogue from someone who said homosexuality is blasphemy, we'll never allow gay marriage, the prophet of the LDS church came out and congratulated on that day at, I want to say it was City Creek Park or something in Salt Lake City, where at that time, lesbian mayor was there announcing the great news that we are now allowed to have gay marriage. And from that vast distance, like there's hope. And I also just see, like I'm getting my Juris Doctorate, I want to do environmental law or water rights or indigenous, but I already know I'm somehow going to get half-assed roped into this mess because I'm very good, I'm what they call a peer mentor. I'm good at listening and evaluating sides soundly, unbiasedly, even though I have many, many biases. And it comes from statistics because our legal system is not fair. You're never innocent. You're guilty or not guilty. That's ones and zeros, and it's a box model, and it just makes sense to me. However, ones and zeros, you have a histogram. There is a middle, and there's a margin of error, and you can bring things to be as close to that with your margin of error and your EV scores and all that. And taking that, and then my humanity and my love of just people and seeing them thrive. Maybe not in the near future, anytime soon, but if it has to be me, it will be me. And we can do that thing where I don't remember who it was either. It's been a long day. The guy who had Netanyahu or whoever was the head of Israel at the time and that of Palestine. I think it was Clinton or
Yeah, it was Clinton and Ehud Barak. Was that him? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. During the Oslo Accords in the 90s.
And he's doing that like this. Mm-hmm. But then you also have like, I was going to say Jimmy Kimball, but Jimmy Carter, who he brought ICWA, which is the Indian Child Welfare Act. So natives couldn't no longer be sold for $1 to white families, and they could only be adopted by natives. He brought through a lot of, like he wasn't the best president, but he was an amazing humanitarian, and he had all these things that he fixed outside of being a president. And he brought peace to all these nations. He almost eradicated malaria in some African countries where it was down to like 1 or 2 cases from hundreds of millions of cases. And so I just see stuff like that. I'm like, there's hope. And I truly do believe that people eventually, after they're done killing each other and realizing it's not work, because that's the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over, that they'll maybe try a different tactic and try to listen and understand each other and see where our common ground is and not go into World War V and, mutually assured destruction the shit out of the planet.
Yeah. This is another question that sort of ties into the common ground thing, but what role do you think social media plays in political discourse? Do you think it's positive, negative, both?
It's both, because a lot of people, like, for instance, when the Kirk guy was shot, you went one who went a complete side tangent of martyr, or we have no sympathy for him whatsoever because he got what he got. And other people said, I don't care. And it divided. But then you also have stuff like ducks and puppies that are somehow linked in where it goes, there's one, it's like autism explained by ducks. Political this party explained, and all these different things. And I've shared that many times, and I've had hundreds and hundreds of people realize, oh, I didn't know that's how the Electoral College worked, or I didn't know how that worked. And so you can tie politics into it and actually bridge people together, educate them in a positive way. But I feel at this current time, for the most part, it is a very dividing factor because you also have unfiltered or biased social media platforms to where when you try to Google stuff during the election and like Hillary Clinton stuff was gone and this and that, versus like me posting stuff about Palestine gets me shadow banned and I don't show up in certain algorithms. But before you had it where people would say, oh, I support Barack, or I support who was there just?
Joe Biden?
Biden, yeah. Yeah. Or, I support Hillary, or I support Kamala. But then as we're getting further and further, it's getting more and more polarized, and they're using it more as a weapon, I see. But like I said, you can bring things back like the earth when it is just completely destroyed. It starts like in the Sahara Desert. They started planting one-seeded, now it's back to how it was in the last ice age, where they had just forests and forests, and then after that it went to desert. But things can always return back to normal, not in the way that we remember it or the way that we want to get there, but it can be done.
That's very interesting. Another question that I ask is, do you have a certain political issue that if you feel most passionate about? If you could point to one thing?
I got a lot of issues.
Right. They might all be tied in.
See, I find wrongful deportation is a big one, or incarceration for ICE, because I almost wore that shirt that said, unless your ancestors look like this, you're an immigrant, and it had all the chiefs on it. And it's true, because they're immigrants, but what makes their immigrant status better than that of someone else? Or you have like the Korean car company down in like Georgia that ICE was called, and that like they just pissed off one of our allies, and it's like, well, why do that? But then also just social injustice is a big one, because I hate seeing anyone, it could be that white kid that was on the all-black campus being a minority, or our queer and LGBT students here, our women. We're a matrilineal society in Navajo, and that really fueled me up into seeing what was right and what was wrong, and seeing things differently. But just environmentalism is one of my passions, especially here at the university and with Utah Conservation Corps and Peace Corps and AmeriCorps. But seeing people just throw the wrapper, like pollution, abusing the land, but then also people abusing power. Like, I don't know how they're all tied in. It's like, someone's stealing shit from Walmart. I don't give a crap about that, because Walmart, big media or big multi-billion-dollar corporation. Or maybe like food insecurity, that's another one, but I wouldn't say that's a political issue, but that's something I'm passionate about. Basically, I always root for the little guys, and I'm just kind of like, why are these big people attacking the little guys, which is most of us right now? And like, my sister was pregnant. They changed how you can get SNAP benefits and unemployment or Social Security and welfare and all that stuff. And so her and my brother had to move back in with my parents, or her and my brother-in-law. And it's just like, well, why? Because everyone's like, oh, the big beautiful law or the big beautiful bill. But that completely just ripped apart our state. And they're like, well, why? What? How come it doesn't apply to me? Because you're poor, and that goes to the 1%, and you were too stupid to read the fine print, yet you voted for that bullshit. And so that's like going back to education. If you were educated, you would actually read through before and vote with your brain and not with your conscience, or both. I guess you need both. Yeah.
Well, and another thing, obviously, I saw on your profile, you're very passionate about Palestine and what's happening.
Yes.
What draws you? Sorry, one sec. What draws you so close to that issue?
So I did not know much about Palestine. I've always had Arabic friends, and I like their food. I like learning linguistics. I do some phrases. I always had like Farsi coworkers, and then we had a sit-in protest when everyone was getting shot up, and basically our students said, hey, will you come and sit and listen to these people? And what we did is we sat out on the quad all during daylight hours, and then we left at night, but we had signs that we made, and then we come back. And it was just listening, like I was saying, how you can change the minds of people, to these actual refugees coming in, because I actually was on International Student Council, and I helped with CRIC, which is our Cache Valley refugee and immigrant community, because I've always been passionate about culture and helping people. I just saw these people as, they're also refugees or immigrants who have been unfairly taken advantage of. But then tying it to my native culture, how Palestine is being colonized, there was no state of Israel, and now what started with Gaza and the West Bank, and then they get smaller and smaller, the ethnic cleansing, the concentration camps, it hit too close to home for me as someone who is of that descendants who resisted the long walk, the ethnic cleansing, the being beat and the being abused, raped, pillaged, plundered, land stolen. And I kind of just made it personal. And so I started talking with these people, and they said, yeah, it cost us this much money to come over here. And we had actually rabbis there at our center too who said, this isn't a Jewish thing, this isn't an anti-Semitic, there's no Semitism here. This is a Zionistic colonizing, ethnic cleansing of Netanyahu, by Netanyahu. It is not what the media portrays it, because, you know, as someone who's not religious, I just kind of listen to everyone, and I'm like, you're allowed to believe in whatever deity or God you want, but I always say we're children of the corn pollen, Mother Earth, and Father Sky, and so that's my own personal belief. And basically, by the end of on the fourth day of our sit-in, there's people, it was the 5th of May, it was graduation day in 2024, and no one was paying attention. They were all just getting their pictures. There's children being bombed and destroyed, and you could care less. And so we took our little speaker thing, like, free, 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 and I was, because, you know, the Haka, New Zealand, you have to get angry and use that. And it literally, on the quad, there's 4 buildings on either side. It echoed off, and people shuddered and jumped off of the little A where they're getting their pictures. And it was the militaries. And I said, you all know me as John Brown Jr.'s grandson. I saved your life. I am the reason you do not speak Japanese or German right now. Yet I was beaten down. Why are these people being beaten down when all they're doing is talking and trying to explain their side of the story? I've not seen a single Israeli come up. I've seen Jews here from the not the mosque, but the synagogue, and they're saying, yeah, we do not preach this. So who's preaching this? It's the state of Israel and the United States, which is backing them up, and it's just back to the old U.S. It is the most active, modern, imperialistic society. Everyone thinks, oh, the U.K. or France. It is America, because where did they learn it from? Their mother. And it's just going on, and it just, yeah, it hits too close to home with just the way that their land is shrinking, their food was taken away, because our peach trees were cut down, our orchards were burned, our sheep were murdered, our elders were, you know, it is just something that is too personal to ignore. And so that's why I'm very passionate about it. And that was back before we had the global flotilla and the sit-outs and the world over protests. We just had students getting shot. But now it seems the world, and you have so many countries at the UN who now recognize the state of Palestine. And they say, well, what about the Israelis? What about the Jews? It's not about the religion. It's not about Islam or Judaism. Because you know, the Torah and the Quran and even the Bible, you all share overlapping stuff, and you have similar stories. It's like, just get along like they did way back in the past. And it's just, that's my big thing. I wanted to see like when they have the Feed America and all the kids are like around the world holding hands. Yeah. Like, just be like that. Yeah. Like, just get the fuck along.
What do you think? What do you think like the ideal solution would be if you have one?
Well, the thing too is they keep blaming it on Hamas, and what one of the people said at the protest, and he was a speaker. He says, "I did not vote for Hamas. 49% of Palestine voted for Hamas, so they were not the winning party." And so, wait. Yeah, 51% of people did not vote for Hamas. So the majority did not want them in charge, but they kind of did a coup in that thing. And that's kind of how, after the October 7th attacks, but it's been back and forth since time immemorial. And I just think the solution is, like what I say to people every day is like, well, what do you say to us colonizers? Like, go back to where you came from? Like, no, the past is the past. You can't fix it. But if you do not learn from it, you are doomed to repeat it, which is what we're doing over and over and over again. So what we've kind of learned to do, or what I was always taught is, in the Bible, in the Quran, in the Torah, is an eye for an eye, make a tooth for a tooth. But if you do that, an eye for an eye, it makes the world go blind. And turn the other cheek if they smack, because we've been here, and we've been here, and we've been here, and we've been hit and hit and hit. But we still keep on turning the other cheek because we thought we can live here peacefully until once you learn how to live here peacefully. And we're doing pretty okay. And on one of my speeches I had to give about what I thought, they keep calling it the Israel-Palestine conflict, but it's a fucking genocide. I said, we are making a comeback. I'm allowed to go home. Palestinians are not allowed right now because there are people coming in and sweeping through. However, why not have a place, because obviously before the wars, they're getting along just fine. And the Jews even, before they were all able to, the British said, oh, you can go to Israel. They were before World War II, they were living in Russia and Germany. There was Yiddish and Hebrew, and they're all over the world just fine, living. But yet now that they're, oh, we have our land spot. Oh, we have this land spot. What happened to that peaceful existence? Like one of my favorite musicals is Fiddler on the Roof, and they're like, and the Tevka, they have ours, and he's sitting there, Tev is talking, and they're living just fine until like the Tsar gives the orders. But that's back to capitalism and all that, where I want this, so I'm going to take it. And it's like, just live in harmony. We're all brothers and sisters, and just stop fucking fighting. Yeah. Yeah. And stop supplying aid to Israel, like our guns and the amount of bombs. Like I look at what people don't realize what Palestine looked like before the bombing, because one, they didn't care or knew that it existed. But if you go back to the Animaniacs, when they're doing the countries of the world in their capitals, I think it was in 99 or 98, it was like, Palestine, Italy, and Guam. And I'm like, the Animaniacs, the cartoon even knew that it was a country yet. I mean, that's how I learned the states and capitals was from Animaniacs. It's like, from the cartoon, like, if a cartoon is smart enough to acknowledge it, why is it taking this long for the rest of the damn world to see it now that they're almost completely annihilated? Yeah. And it's like us. We were seen as slaves, and we weren't seen as citizens until 1957 in this state. My mother was already 8 years old. Yeah. And yeah, so I'm just like, when they say the 14th Amendment and everyone was free for say, not us. We couldn't vote. We still were being raided by Mexican slave traders and by the Utes and the U.S. And I just, yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of passions, and so I try and just think back to, let's keep things good, because yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, and today is a gift. That's why we call it a present. So just enjoy your days, one day at a time. Go AA. They got it right.
Well, and so those are all the questions I have. But one of the final questions that I wanted to ask, and my camera might be overheating. It's fine. If this turns off, then I'll move this camera. But I do want to hear the answer to this question. Obviously, you're the grandson of co-talker John Brown Jr. Uh-huh. Did you ever meet him?
No. So I am one of the funny stories where I talked about Jimmy Carter. I am a child of ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, where up until 96, we were put in boarding schools still, and you were able to adopt us out. But he put something in place that said only natives could be adopted by other natives to keep our culture, because he saw it was dying, and he had the Department and Bureau of Indian Affairs, yada, yada, yada. Well, my biological last name is Brown. We are from Page, Arizona, and our clan is Shashtine'e, which are the Bear people. And I was working as a fishmonger at Smith's one day, and all those clans I rambled off, that's my adopted mother, but still real mother. And everyone's like, oh, who's your real mother? She's the real mother, she raised me. She's there for me. But my biological mother, I met her at Christmas Eve of 2021, and she was talking to us, this is why you're gifted with languages, this, and that, and blah, blah, blah. And we just started going, and she talks as much as I do, and my younger sister was like, Mom, there's someone who talks more than Kris. Like, she's like, yeah, it's probably his mom. And so we were talking, but I never met him, but I met her mom, my bio mom's mom, and we were sitting there talking, because the sad thing is my bio mom does not speak Navajo at all. But because I was adopted, I was able to grow up in that Navajo culture, submersed. She was brought up in Mormon culture because they'd been converted, and so the Navajo got snuffed out. Yeah. But that was kind of the synapsis where I was able to bypass that and go to another family and then come and learn about it. And so I met my half-brother, and he's like, oh, I have all of his medals, and I have all of this and that, and we're friends, well, we're family, but meeting up with that and getting to see and go through the albums and everything, and it's not only just my culture, but it's literally in my DNA. Yeah. And so I learned the stories and all the different things, like him and Ira B. Hayes, and yeah, that's something that, I only learned it 4 or 5 years ago. But it's one of the things I pride myself in, is knowing that blood is in my veins, and I have those gifts. That resilience, that linguistic capability, that leadership, And I'm just like, badass, I see where it comes from, because there's a lot of things my mom does, and it just does not, well, where did that come from? And it's obviously not from her, and no.
Wow.
So I love knowing that. I actually have a medal from him, from my half-brother, and it's one of the hat pins that they had that has them raising Old Glory. And I think it's him, Ira B, and I'm not too sure who else, but yeah.
It's very. This is I told my dad that I was interviewing you, and one of the questions that he wanted to ask me is, have you ever seen the Nicolas Cage movie Code Talkers?
Yeah.
What do you think about it? Do you think
it's knowing the history, and like they tried to do a good job, and as best they could. But I'd rather watch a documentary, because they have like that World War II movie where they colorized all the black and white for the bombings.
Yeah.
They have one of those too about the Code Talkers, and they have found footage of them. And so it'd be like, I don't know why they even released the code, because if it was unbreakable,
then they could just keep using it.
Yeah, why not just keep using it? But people don't realize too, there was Code Talkers before us in World War II. In World War I, they had, I think, the Choctaw, the Mohawk. They had a few other tribes who did code talking. Yeah. But it wasn't until us, because we are the largest tribe, that they were able to get us. Like, he was a Marine, and he wasn't able to tell his parents until 40 years after the fact. Wow. And so, and he still wasn't, he wasn't seen as a citizen, yet he had to go and defend this country. Yeah. And Native Americans have the highest enlisted out of any other race in the U.S. Army. Wow. Yeah, so we're very patriotic people, yet I'm just kind of like, but I see that and I'm just like, maybe it's because I'm a little biased too. Like, here's where the biases will come. I really don't care for Nicolas Cage. Yeah. So it's kind of, but then there are movies where, like, say, I don't like Aziz Ansari, but I love Parks and Rec. Oh, okay. So I'll put the bias out. But I'm just kind of like, any movie I've seen Nicolas Cage, and I'm just kind of, Yeah. But I mean, they tried. I will give them that. They tried. It's not the most accurate or best representation. Yeah. But they did as best as they could. Well, the movie, I would say, if you like Native movies, or if it's just about code talkers, watch something historical. But the movie, if you're about like learning Native history and Indian justice, is Killers of the Flower Moon.
It's a great movie.
It is a great. Everyone's like, you like the movie? Like, yes, I know it's longer than Lord of the Rings. Yes, I know it is dark and tragic, but it is written to the T, as best as possible, to bring light to. They tried to ban the teaching of the Osage murders in Oklahoma. And they wanted to ban that movie, but who was the director? De Niro?
Yeah, I think
or
it was.
Was he the actor?
No, I mean DiCaprio was in it. And
De Niro, DiCaprio, and I knew it was a couple of the good, but they got it out in time, and they showed it, and the world knew, because someone that's one of the things I don't really like about Navajos is we'd rather not share it with outsiders and die and take it to the grave than have it be lost than share it. And like, you see the Apache crown dancers. I'm sure you saw it when you were in Fort Lewis, but they're the ones, and you see them, and you can just YouTube it, and you can YouTube a lot of different traditions, but they're like, oh, that takes the sacredness away from it. I'm like, yeah, but if you don't teach someone it's going to be gone forever. And so that's kind of like, that's why I was happy to learn about the stories and the code and my language, is because if, until my last breath, I'll still be a Navajo native speaker. But yeah, that, not my favorite movie. But that's because, I have pre-exposed biases, and I usually try and check my biases at the door. Or I usually do, but with that, I was like, nah.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Nicolas Cage, he's, it's not, I don't blame you to have a bias against him. Not my favorite actor either. One of the final questions that I ask is, what is the most important thing in your life? It doesn't have to be political. It could be an idea, family, religion, culture.
The earth, because there's only one earth. I'm really big about environmentalism, but that always ties back. Mother Earth, Nahastan, and Johanae, our father sky, the Gadeshkes is the Milky Way. Everything's tied back into one. And that word Hajan, there was a TED Talk, a Navajo girl, she said, the word Hajan means seeing the beauty of all ideology becoming one and being a part of it, or something like that. Like, that was her. You can't define that word, but it brings back Mother Earth. Like, I do the hoop dance. Mother Earth is round, our hoop is round. The seasons are 4 seasons. You have, 4 is a sacred number in Navajo. You have 4 times of life, and everything, it's just the circle of life. Like, It's not just Lion King that has it, it's us as natives. And I'd say, yeah, if you take care of the earth, she'll take care of you. And we're really fucking up big time. And that's why I want to do environmental law, so I can, put some sanctions in and help. So we're not just, drill, baby, drill. Right. And because that may be good for you right now, make you lots of money, but you're going to die. And don't you care about your next of kin or them? And yeah, if you're a Rothschild or a Vanderbeek or whoever they are, it's like, how did they start with that capitalism? And so I'm just like, be kind. Mother Earth will take care of you, take care of your neighbor, just do that. And that always, it ties back into, everything is tied in together. And so I'd say, it's Honjon. Honjon Hasli is the phrase, and it just means, may all be beautiful and you walk in beauty, or beauty walks with me. And that's probably the most important thing to be, is keeping things Honjon, or Diyin. We have our language is Diyin Dinhebizad, which means the holy people's language. We don't have swear words in Navajo. Because it's that, everything is just sacred and respected and beautiful, and it's just tied in. We don't have a religion, it's tied in. Our culture tied in, our language tied in. Everything is one, back to Khajan. So that's the most important thing if you ask a Navajo. Well, a traditional one, they might just be like, fry bread, it's round too.
Yeah, there's 4 sections.
Yeah. You put in chili beans and cheese and lettuce and sour cream, and that's your 4 layers. Yeah, we in our Navajo mythology, we have 4 worlds too that we came from, and this is the glittering world. And I'm so happy. I'm always proud to be, know that I am, because we're almost squashed out. Yeah, here we are, and that's always the hashtag, we shall remain. And I'm remaining. I've had many attempts on my education, on my life even. Been assaulted twice. There's neurological stuff, and it's because they see how the great things you're going to do, and it scares them because it's going to change, and you're going to disrupt their way of life like they disrupted your people's, and they don't want to see that. So that's why they're that's why you have such a big target on your back. I'm like, bring it on.
Hell yeah. Well, any final words or last thoughts?
I think what you're doing is great. Finding common ground. And that's literally what I try and do every day, is if you find common ground between differing sides, differing opinions. You may not change their opinion, but you'll make them see something and appreciate it, or you'll make them understand and maybe accept something that they may not agree with. And it's by what you're doing, common ground. So go, Jacob.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely.